Richard Harris is a man who knows how to dream. And this particular dream began when he was 10 years old.
The way I found the castle was I was riding my bicycle out here from High Point with 3 of my buddies, and we stopped at Kersey Valley Grocery. A little old lady behind the counter, I always remember what she said. I was 10 years old, and she said, "You boys wouldn't want to see an old haunted castle down in the woods, would you?" Well, of course, we all came tearing down here, and it looked very much like an old haunted ruin of a castle.
The pile of ruins he saw that day was the remains of an old Guilford County gold stamping mill, built in the 1830s by a Scotsman named Charles McCulloch. It was abandoned after the Civil War and fell into ruin. And it was the early 1980s before Richard could revive his boyhood dream to buy the property and reconstruct what he called Castle McCulloch.
We had to rebuild everything, and we built about 20% of the stone back. We laid over 1 million pounds of stone in the restoration. I once calculated it took in excess of 1 billion hammer blows to quarry the stone.
Chisel marks from the stonemason's hammers are visible today on the heavy granite blocks. And because the old building had housed a steam engine, the windows were nothing more than just open holes for ventilation. But of course, a castle has to have windows, so Richard made some.
That's English leaded glass. We added the crystal and stained glass over the door. Of course, we put in the chandelier, and we added the iron railings. There were no railings around when there was a steam engine. The oiler would walk on these balconies. There was no wooden structure remaining when the building was restored, so all these beams were cut new. This one weighs about 8,500 pounds. The paneling in the back was a replica of paneling that's in the Lost Colony Museum near Manio. I liked the simplicity and everything, and it was the period that I wanted for the castle.
And in case you hadn't noticed, Castle McCulloch also has a moat. It's not hard to imagine some fair maiden crossing over to safety in the castle. Which brings us to the next part of the story, because in Richard Harris's mind, there's much more to a castle than just 4 walls and a moat.
I really wanted to create what I'd seen in Europe, where a whole little valley was created with bridges and dams and waterfalls and fountains. So I set about that, and we've been building on it for 20 years now. So far, we have a nice granite lake, a fountain, a couple buildings. I won't be finished till I'm dead, I think.
The unstoppable Mr. Harris has crafted a medieval wonderland at Castle McCulloch and also built a thriving business. This place is now North Carolina's largest wedding venue.
We welcome all who have come to share in this sacred occasion.
Countless brides have been married in the Great Hall. Before long, the wedding business was so successful that Richard needed to have more than one place to stage a wedding. And thus the Crystal Garden was born. It's an exuberant bit of architecture fashioned after Queen Victoria's Crystal Palace. And as usual, Richard's creative juices were flowing freely.
A friend of mine gave me $50,000 worth of this bevel glass, very expensive stuff. And so I designed the building just for the glass.
The centerpiece of this room is a giant chandelier Richard made in his workshop when he discovered that buying one like it would cost upwards of $60,000. Now the property boasts 7 locations to have a wedding, either indoor or out. And as you might suspect, given Castle McCulloch's many attractive features, there's a whole lot more that goes on here than just weddings.
Well, now which way do we go?
Pardon me, that's a very nice way.
In the fall, talent from the Community Theater of Greensboro
Hooray!
transforms both grounds and buildings into an exciting Land of Oz adventure.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
No matter where Dorothy and her young friends may go in their search for the Wizard of Oz, there's always a fantastic setting available for the story. Whether on the drawbridge or in the castle itself.
Ring around the rosy. My broom has chosen you. No, I won't let you. Oh!
And if you click your heels twice
There's no place like home.
and really believe,
There's no place like home. Goodbye, Dorothy.
you could end up in December. This particular dream, maybe the most elaborate one yet, started back in July, when Richard began devising a way to transform the property into a Christmas spectacle.
That's good.
It's a sight that folks in Charles McCulloch's time could scarcely have imagined. Twinkling lights abound. From the castle, across the pond, and along Amber Bridge. The castle's great room looks almost like something from Currier and Ives, complete with Santa reading letters from his true believers. And each February, there is an elaborate, richly styled winter festival called Castle Carnival. All of this, plus whatever Richard Harris may add to his castle and grounds in the future, is very much in keeping with the vision of a man who never stops dreaming.